welcome to the final session of Unit 3. And in this session, we'll be looking at teaching and assessing large physics classes. My name is Patrick Eje. Now, at the end of this session, you should be able to outline some techniques of teaching a large physics class and describe techniques that can be used to assess student learning and teaching effectiveness in large physics classes. So, let's look at the meaning of a large class. And when we say a class is large, you realize the use of the word large is going to be really because what will be large in your school may not be large in another school. Or what will be large in one classroom situation may not be large in your classroom situation. So note that whether a class size is large or a class is large or small will depend on the subject area and not on the whole class size. So, for instance, in physics, maybe when you have a class size of, let's say, even 20, you can say it is large. But maybe in the arts, they will say 20 is too small. So, it is not just by the class size. So, for instance, 60 or more students in a room may not constitute a large class size for some subjects, but 40 will be considered as large class for other subjects like physics and mathematics. So, in some subjects, they may consider 60 to be normal. But in physics, you realize that even 40 becomes a very large class for you. And most educationists suggest that the normal class size in every subject should be between 25 to 30 students, which means at least 25 students to one teacher. So, the teacher-student ratio should be 1:25 or 1:30. So one teacher, 30 students. So this is what educationists suggest should be the normal class size in a subject. So when you are teaching such large classes, there are some techniques that you should use in order to ensure effective teaching of physics. Note that in teaching these classes, the task of teaching becomes very difficult. And so when you are not abreast with such techniques, it becomes very difficult for you to even assess the effectiveness of your own teaching. And for you to ensure effective teaching, you must plan ahead. So planning is key. Once in your course of planning, you are able to think and perceive how your learners are going to receive this kind of information, how they are going to understand. Your planning will even help you on how you do assessment in the classroom. And when you're also teaching such classes, ensure that students at the back of the class will be able to hear and see you. So you must try as much as possible to have an audible voice as well as a legible handwriting on the board, and you must be physically seen by all your students in the classroom. And ensure that you can hear any student who may also wish to ask a question. So in as much as those at the back can hear you, can see you, you should be also, you as a teacher, you should also hear your learners anytime they want to ask a question or provide an answer to a question. And establish guidelines for large class etiquette. So in large classes, it is very important you establish the class rules. So how to ask questions. Let them know that if you want to ask questions, put up your hand, and when you are given the opportunity to talk, you give or you ask your question. If it is an answer to a question you want to provide, you do same, and when you are given the opportunity, you provide the answer. Always ensure punctuality of your students, and you must set rules for going out of your class. So you shouldn't just be allowing your students to be going out and entering. It will bring a whole lot of distraction in the classroom. And ensure that class also starts and ends on time. So be on time and end the class on time. Now you may also use high-tech electronic equipment for your presentations. So you can use projectors. You can prepare PowerPoint presentations and project these presentations for your learners to see what you want to present to them. And focus your attention on all the students as you teach and not on a few students. So you must understand that all the students in the classroom are supposed to be taught. And so your attention should be on all your learners and not just a few of the students in the classroom. And stop frequently to ask questions. intervals. You pause, you ask questions. The feedback that they will provide will let you know whether your learners are really following, whether they really understand what you are presenting to them or not. And you may also prepare handouts for your students. So you give them handouts so that they can read ahead. Once they read ahead and in the course of the teaching, you realize that they already have an idea of what we are about teaching, and so it is going to help them to participate because they have read ahead things that they don't understand. They will this time pay attention so that they can ask those questions. And make an effort to know as many student names as possible during the course of your first term with your students. It is very, very important as a teacher. At least you must know the names of your students and call them by their names. So when you want to ask a question and a student put up the hand, many students put up their hands, and you want to call them, don't just say, yes, the one at the back, the one in front, the one at the middle. Call the student by their names. So try as much as possible to learn the names of your students. Now, how do we assess large class teaching? So in the teaching learning process, we must as well do assessment. And anytime we do assessment in large classes, it provides us information, two key information. And one information is that it provides us with ideas concerning the understanding of our lessons by our learners. So it gives us information whether our learners are really understanding what we are teaching, and it also helps you to assess your own effectiveness as a teacher to find out whether the various strategies and techniques, the various resources you are using in the classroom, they all worked or not. Now, how do we assess student understanding? So if you want to assess the understanding of your students, then these are some techniques that will guide you. Constantly monitor students' understanding by frequently asking direct questions in class. Now, we saw that in questioning, you should ask the question, you pause, then you call a name. So you ask the question, you pause, then you can call. If you want to direct the question to a student, you call the name of that student. And that is why you must know the names of your students. And let students solve physics problems or discuss a physics topic in pairs during your lesson. Note that every test you give to your learners, you'll be marking. And so sometimes it is good you let your learners work in groups. And use multiple choice, true or false, and short answer tests, which can easily be marked by your students in class. So for instance, you give your learners true or false. And you know that with this, you can just share it among your learners. Just you must ensure that no student mark his or her own paper. Once, if it is not true, it is false, and your learners can help you in marking such tests. And assignments can also be given to your students in groups. And expect a certain percentage of your students to try to cheat on an examination. Once you have this, you are expecting this, it also helps you to know how you set your questions. So when you set multiple choice questions, you can mix the questions up. Set that number 1 for student on the first seat will be question 3 for the next person. When you don't have set an expectation that your learners are likely to cheat, you realize they will always be cheating because they are large, and the chances of them having a seating arrangement said that they are closer to themselves are also very high. Now, how do we assess teacher effectiveness? And so as a teacher, you can assess your own effectiveness by developing and administering questionnaires that deal with students' rating of your performance. So you can do that, and it will help you to assess your own effectiveness. You can interview a cross-section of your learners. Let students break up into groups of 5 to 10 and address questions such as, what do you like about the course? What would you change about this subject? Or what strategy would you suggest for change? Even sometimes at the end of the term or the semester, as now we are running semester at the senior high school, you can just ask your learners to take pieces of papers. They should write their views on the whole semester, the various activities that were done in the class. And you know that they are going to provide you with a wide range of information that will help you to assess your effectiveness as a teacher in the classroom. Now, students, in this session, we have discussed what constitutes a large class and the techniques for teaching and assessing a How does one create audience orientation when teaching a large physics class? So let's get an answer to this question and present our answer in the next unit.